Hello everybody and welcome back to Man Complains About Thing on the Internet. And what's today's thing? Well, in today's world, you're only allowed to complain about 3 things on the internet. Video games.
But if you're gonna play like that, you better have shockwaves to finish the job. Because if that guy had shockwaves after he railed me like that from behind, wait a minute.
Topic of the week that no one will remember by next week.
Andrew Tate has done more for this generation than anybody. And it's facts, bro.
And American politic.
I'm gonna do it.
But since I'm one of the 3 billion avid gamers on this earth, I think you can guess what I'm going to be talking about today. Yeah, that's right, we're talking about the Eldritch abomination known as the AAA game publisher, and the many horrific acts it's committed since it's breached into our dimension some 20 years ago. See, in modern day, you have your crime boss Rocky Cities, your Cyberpunks, your Redfalls.
Well, player, why did I beat you?
Jesus, I need a drink.
But honestly, I'm gonna give those games some credit. They may have comedically missed the mark, but they were not a sequel, a remake, or a live service game. And you know, even though they failed, and their whole failure opens up a completely different can of worms we could talk about when it comes to publishers not giving game devs the time they need to make good games, but I want to more use these games as an example of publishers letting their dev teams actually try something new. Because as it happens, AAA game publishers don't care about making good games. They care about one thing: the play.
The money, Skylar.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry if this is how you had to find out, but the games industry really just does care about making money regardless of quality. You know, that actually segues me really nicely into my first complaint point. Let's talk about sequels. So first up is the sequel, which I think is the least offensive in all 3 of these, because if you're making a sequel, then you're just giving the fan base more of what they want. You know, it's not a bad thing. In my opinion, you should only make a sequel if you have a reason to make one. If you can't make something that's on the same level or close to the same level plus something new, don't make it.
In the past, you're awfully glad to see him.
We need him. This mission needs him.
We need him or you need him?
You got something to say to me, Captain?
Stop. Just stop. We need to shut down that damn machine and we don't even know where it is yet.
And see, some companies do stick to this. They think that if they can't make something that adds to their previous works, don't make a sequel. But then there are other companies who see successful franchise and they just keep adding and adding and adding. Oh yeah, that reminds me. This is completely unrelated to what I was just saying. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed.
Hey, what's the matter you out there?
That's racist.
You're racist.
Hey, so imagine you're a comedian and you have one joke. Now this joke's a banger. When you tell it, people are rolling on the floor, their faces hurt, they're crying, they're pissing their pants, all that good stuff. And one night you take this joke to a comedy club and everyone loves it. It is a banger just like expected, and when you leave the building, everyone's cheering after you. You come back the next year round and everyone is on the edge of their seat. They're wondering, what kind of verbal force of nature is this guy gonna pull out this time? You step up to the mic and you say the same joke. Now this joke is still a banger, people love it, people are rolling on the floor, all that good stuff before, and you leave the building. Now, for the next 11 years in a row, you come back and you say that same joke over and over and over again. Now by year 13, people kind of understand the joke. It's been pulled apart, it's been analyzed. Why is this joke funny? People understand it and they understand the inner workings. And so by the time you come back, people kind of know what to expect. And when you step up to the mic and say your joke, people are like, yeah, I mean, it's alright. See, the issue here is that the joke has been told too many times and it's been told with far too much frequency. In other words, the joke has lost its magic. Just like the Assassin's Creed series. Can you believe that one of their selling points for Assassin's Creed Mirage is that it's more like the old games? If you have to make a video game more like the old games, then it's probably because you've been straying away from the original idea, because you've been running out of ideas. And if you've been running out of ideas, Don't you think it's time to put the series to bed? Call of Duty has escaped this fate because it's a series about military conflict. It's never promising a single premise except war. You know, it's not promising the continuing of a storyline. Say, if they run out of ideas for the Black Ops series, easy. Just put that to bed and make a new COD series with a new storyline. They've got this unique position they're in where the premise of being a military shooter man is extremely broad. They have no commitment to anyone's story, time period, or even character. They could set each game in its own time period with its own story and it would still sell. That's a luxury Assassin's Creed wants but can't have. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be things that people expect from these games. Like, you cannot make an Assassin's Creed without a hidden blade. If you don't have Templars or Assassins, people riot. If there's no mention of the Animus, people riot. If you don't wear cool robes, if there's not enough parkour, people riot. You see the difference between Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed? Sure, you can set both in any time period you want, but you can only do whatever you want with Call of Duty.
Hey, what are you doing?
What are you doing? We don't kiss ghosts! Drone swarm!
Jesus, I need a drink.
Sure, you have the freedom to set Assassin's Creed in any time period, but there is always going to be a list of things that have to be in the game. And this goes for a ton of anthology type game series. Far Cry, for example, can be set anywhere at any time, but you'll always be playing as that underdog fish out of water type, fighting some cruel, elusive, big personality bad guy in some exotic part of the world that's full of things that want to kill you.
Want to get a little picture right into the camera. There we are. Awesome.
Hitman, you're always going to be playing as a bold-headed Agent 47 and be dropped into environments where your objective is to simply kill the target in a creative or stealthy way while using a variety of disguises. The Division, you're always going to be playing an undercover Division agent trying to maintain order in a post-apocalyptic world using a variety of high-tech gadgets and fighting a variety of factions, each with their own theme. Oh, and just to add on about running out of ideas, listen to this selling point for the new Division game.
For the first time in the Division, the entire base of operations is a shared space. You can socialize, form a group, customize your character, and prep for your next operation. Each session begins and ends in the base of operations, and you'll be talking to Carmelita, Kevin, and Mackenzie quite often.
I don't believe it. This is what I've been saying we've been needing since the Division 1. I remember in the Division 1 how we had safe houses spread out all across New York City, and it was so lackluster how you'd go inside these safe houses and there'd be other players in there where you could party up with them, and you could also customize and upgrade your equipment. I just thought it was super lacking. I'm just so glad that they've added a new hub area where players could party up and upgrade and customize their equipment. There was a time when games were relying on them having the best features to sell copies, and now we're out here marketing the bare minimum. Like, they copy and paste so many things from stuff that worked in the past that they have nothing new to show off. Well, nothing worthwhile showing off, at least.
There's also the ever-present threat of dehydration. Dehydration can slow you down, so you really have to keep an eye out for fresh, non-contaminated water when you're out in Silver Creek.
I might buy this game now. Now, the Hydro Homie community might be celebrating, but seriously, if you have to market your game by saying, we have features that were in the previous entries, maybe it's time to make a new IP. And why would you make a new IP? That requires money, time, and worst of all, creativity. Why would you do that when you can just pump out a generic sequel for a pre-established series? Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on how to make a AAA game sequel from scratch. Here I've got Batman Arkham City. I've always wanted a sequel to this game, so today we're going to make Batman Arkham City 2. So learning from my dad who works at Ubisoft, I learned this little trick on how to make a sequel to a AAA game. All you got to do is open up the case, pull it out, but we want to keep all that fresh, nice gameplay, and we don't want to do any work, so we're going to put that back in, close it up, and then this is all about PR and marketing at this point. Nice big 2. That's ready for release. But actually, since we're on the topic of sequels, this leads me into our next topic, the non-sequel. See, before we're talking about sequels that barely put any effort in, but now we're talking about sequels that put no effort in. Today's biggest defenders of this are Overwatch 2 and Counter-Strike 2. Now, I'm mainly here to complain about Overwatch 2, but I will touch on Counter-Strike 2 real quick. Counter-Strike 2 is pretty much just a remake of CSGO. So it's running on the Source 2 engine, and it has just new gameplay features and new graphics, enticing new players. In my opinion, it's justified because they didn't advertise it as being anything more than a straight upgrade from the old game. I mean, they announced the whole thing with a trailer for smoke grenades.
But the smoke can interact with the environment in interesting ways.
Jesus, I need a drink.
Overwatch 2, on the other hand, is probably the most deceptively marketed game I have ever seen in my life.
Null sector is everywhere. I'll hold them as long as I can.
What are you doing here?
It's happening again.
One day. It has been too long, Master. I can't do this.
You've made your choice. Nobody will stop us.
Get them, Brigitte.
I've got you, Papa. Watching your back.
Now that's teamwork.
Do not worry, I will push it. Okay, other direction. I am good at pushing things.
Wow, out of the 3-minute trailer, only 40 seconds of it was dedicated to showing off PvP. And I mean, fair enough, Overwatch 2 is just Overwatch with story mode, right? They must be devoting all of their focus on the PvE mode, right? Yeah, nah, Blizzard actually wasn't focused on anything because Overwatch 2 launched late last year with no story mode, one new game mode, a handful of maps, one less tank on either team, a shop full of microtransactions, and about a billion balancing issue. Come play Overwatch 2. It's Overwatch but worse. Seriously, when I started playing last year, if I wanted to buy this high quality Junker Queen skin, it would cost me 30 Australian dollars. But it was fine, because if you wanted to play without spending money, you could by completing the weekly challenges, which would net you a cool 60 credits per week. Meaning, if you wanted to buy one of these high quality skins, you would only have to grind the weekly challenges every single week for a good, quick 8 months. Did you know that Blizzard has a statue outside of their head office and has a plaque that reads, "Dedicated to creating the most epic entertainment experiences ever"? Well, yeah, it is an epic experience playing Blizzard games like Overwatch, alright, because with one hand, I'm fighting the in-game battle, and the other hand, I'm fighting to keep my wallet in my pocket so it doesn't fly into the screen and spend my entire paycheck on a Widow bikini skin and a single voice line. Now, Blizzard has reacted to the community uproar about the monetization in the game, and there are ways to get currency in the Battle Pass now. But it took them 4 seasons, and honestly, after consuming this much crap for this long, it's kinda hard to wash the bad taste out of my mouth. Here at Blizzard, we care about your problems, but only when those problems cause us to lose money. How ridiculous is it that PvE isn't even out yet? Back in 2019, they showed off a whole level of the PvE, and here we are, 4 years later, with nothing more than that. However, luckily, the game's director Aaron Keller came to our rescue, where he's quoted in this news article. No official date has been announced for the Overwatch 2 campaign and the PvE mode's launch. Keller assured fans that the story mode would be released gradually, starting later this year. However, he also acknowledged that the team is still finalizing how the campaign will be rolled out. That's code for, we haven't figured out how to squeeze the most money out of this thing yet. Like in this article, they talk about how it was such a hard decision on whether they were going to release the campaign all in one go or in pieces. Like they were ever going to make the consumer-friendly choice. Like they weren't going to go for the more profitable option. Even streaming services do this, where they stretch out the episode releases for their shows over multiple months to guarantee continued subscribers. But in Overwatch's case, it's like we got a trailer for the TV show, and when the show comes out, all we got was a documentary where the director talks about how it's still being worked on. Like, if you release something, shouldn't you be releasing the thing that you're marketing? Blizzard would be getting sued to hell and back if anyone had to spend a single dollar on this game for false advertising, but they skirt around it by being free to play, and that's just a showcase of what Blizzard really wants Overwatch 2 to be. They want to compete with all the other free to play mega popular shooters and make that cash, but the original plan for Overwatch 2 was unfortunately designed with a little bit of passion behind it, and as everybody knows, passion cannot produce reliable profits and is therefore banned in modern gaming. Although speaking of modern gaming, let's move on to remakes. See, when I said earlier it's too hard to make something new, I meant it. Why on earth would you spend time trying to capture lightning in a bottle again when you can just clean up the old bottle that the lightning's already trapped in? Kid named second day of filming, by the way. Hello, new day, new me. Now, all the power to you if your game of the year is Resident Evil 4 Remake or Dead Space Remake, but I'm just gonna say, it's kind of ridiculous that the two best games of the year are remakes of classic games from over 10 years ago. And yes, these games do deserve love and a new paint job, but I just wanna ask you guys, is this worth it? Because there are games that deserve remakes, and then there are games that will make money when they're made into remakes. Dead Space, for example, that deserved a remake. Resident Evil 2, that deserved a remake. System Shock, that deserved a remake. But like we've been seeing in the previous couple of years with the likes of Spider-Man and The Flash, nostalgia sells and publishers are starting to notice that. Just watch, in the next couple of years, we are going to get every single remake under the sun of early 2000s games, and everyone's going to be out here saying, it's a new start to the franchise, how exciting! But can't you see the slippery slope here? Dead Space and Resident Evil both died as franchises because their developers couldn't leave well enough alone. They did the whole sequel thing until they diluted their own formula enough to pump out a bad game, and then their series died.
For the next time you see her.
Women.
And it's just a vicious cycle. I mean, you think that modern day developers are immune to making bad decisions? It's obvious, more obvious than not that they aren't. Just because the new game looks good does not mean they're not going to make the same mistakes. Resident Evil is eventually going to make another absolute stinker of a game. Just watch. It'll go like this. They remake the original for shits and giggles. They're like, alright, we deserve to make a remake of this excellent classic. And then they remake the sequel, the sequel, the sequel, and they're like, wow, we're on a roll. Let's make a new game. New game, new game, new game. Bad game. Series dies again. That's the road they're going to go down, but they don't care because they see an opportunity to make money off something that was already good and get another opportunity to take this franchise that was already successful and just milk it. It's just milking the series. That's all it is. I'm not saying that games shouldn't be remade. I'm saying that there are 100% publishers out there that don't look at a game and go, that deserves a remake. They go like, money. It feels so grubby because these days it's not a dumb idea for an executive to sit in a room and go like, oh, I wish we could release the same game twice. It just sucks because usually the first game in a series is the best because that's where all the creativity and passion is, and then afterwards it's just gonna keep going and going. And if your game is with a publisher that has zero integrity, they will keep going until they wring every last dollar out of your idea. It's not about creativity, and it's not about giving the fans what they want. It's about doing as little work and taking as little risks for as much money as possible. In fact, game publishers clutch onto success so tightly, they've created an entire genre of game to act as an excuse for never making anything new. And that genre is called live service games. The latest snake oil scheme on the block that developers are desperately trying to convince players is a cool, awesome, and innovative idea.
Jesus, I need a drink.
So how does a live service game work? Well, it's easy. You make a game and then you monetize it so it can support itself continuously. Then you continuously make content for it until that no longer becomes viable, aka the money dries up. Live service games could be considered Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, Destiny 2. Pretty much any modern multiplayer game is or has been converted to live service, mostly because it's profitable. But you know what happens with big game publishers when profits and games mix. Do you remember in 2010 when EA president Frank Remember in 2010 when EA president Frank something said this? I volunteer you to speak to EA's studio heads. They'll tell you the same thing. They're very comfortable moving the discussion towards how we make connected gameplay, be it cooperative or multiplayer or online services, as opposed to the fire and forget packaged goods only, single player 25 hours and you're out. I think that model is finished. Online is where the innovation and the action is at. Oh, Frank, if poetry was about pissing people off, then you would rival Shakespeare. See, even back in 2010, publishers couldn't go 5 seconds without exposing how rabidly they wanted that revenue money. Like they were just foaming at the mouth, looking for a way to make as much money with as little work as possible.
Yo, no disrespect!
Now look, I know I've been roasting the hell out of the games industry, but I'm gonna say something in support of live service games. There are good games that deserve to survive, gameplay models that don't get old, stories that are good enough to keep telling over an extended period of time. Like if a live service game system is done right, you can actually get a lot of good stuff out of it. Just look at the Destiny 2 community. They have been playing that game for years and they're still getting content and well, they seem to like it, I guess.
Holy shit, this is hot garbage, but I can't stop listening.
And I don't see many people crying out for Destiny 3, and it's just because Destiny 2 really does fill the void. You want your fill of Destiny content? Play Destiny 2. You're always gonna get more from it if you want it. Like another example, Call of Duty Cold War. This whole video makes me sound like a huge COD fanboy. I swear, I'm not. I really liked the main story of COD Cold War, and Adler was one of my favorite characters. And in any other time, that would have been it. I would have met Adler in the game, fought alongside him for a few hours, and then game over. Adler gets his own wiki page on the Call of Duty Wikipedia, and that's it. But COD Cold War actually got 5 seasons of Battle Pass in its multiplayer, and each season focused on a new conflict in Adler's continued war against Perseus. And through the cutscenes we got in those seasons, we got more of the character, more of the story, more of the vibe that I enjoyed with Cold War single player, and there was no risk of losing that vibe between games because devs finished Cold War then just continued development on the multiplayer. So really, live service can be a good thing for a game, even more so than maybe a sequel could be. You don't need a killer story idea for a Battle Pass season, and no one expects you to. It's just an opportunity to pump out more good stuff. Sorry. That's just my phone alarm saying I've said too many nice things about the games industry. Let's talk bad live service. I don't know about you, but when I see a game trailer and I hear they're setting up for the long haul, it kind of kills my interest a little bit because it tells me that they're not really planning to release this thing as a full package. The game we're going to get isn't the real deal. It isn't the full thing. It isn't the best game they could make because, as they said, we've got so many good ideas to show off.
We're thrilled to take the next step as we enter our testing phase. Our community team will be looking at feedback shared across social channels and on our official forums while we evolve our game together with our community, shaping the long-term Heartland experience.
Okay, sorry, that's the last time I'm gonna make fun of Division Heartlands, but holy crap, that game looks generic. How many bots did they have to buy to fill up those comment sections with supportive comments? I'm telling you right now, if you ever see an upcoming live service game that has looter and RPG mechanics, avoid it like the plague. Because there was a time when RPG mechanics signified that there was some depth to your game, but these days it signifies that the developer is doing everything possible to inconvenience you. Just look at Gotham Knights. It's made from the same DNA as the Arkham games, but they've just made it less smooth. Enemies have health bars and levels. You have to constantly unlock new and better weapons just to stay viable in this world. Sorry, quick detour. Does anyone hate leveling enemies in games? Like, why is it that the further you get into a game, an enemy that was easy to beat earlier is now Hulk levels of durable, and you have to be 2 levels higher than him just to have the same experience that you had beating him the first time? Like, this happened in Dead Island 2, in Gotham Knights. I'd understand if there were different enemies that were tougher to beat, but why the hell do I have to grind to beat up some guy that I could easily beat up earlier in the game? It's just a padding system that developers use to make their game feel longer and feel like you're doing more stuff. I remember in the Division 1, my friend and I, we got to the final level, but we couldn't play it because you had to be 4 levels higher than our current level, and it was such a grind. There's only so many times I can go get a food drop or stop some bandits from raiding an outpost before it gets absolutely mind-numbingly boring. I'd rather do real-life busy work like doing the dishes or mowing the grass, because that's what this feels like. It's just tedious bullshit. Like, this form of progression just means that they don't have to come up with any proper progression or any clever systems, because all you're doing is leveling up your damage. All you're doing is making yourself viable to just oosh, 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 oosh. There's no combos that make it easier. You just click the button and hope that your numbers are higher than the other guy. I mean, just look at the new Suicide Squad game. Rocksteady, of all publishers, says, let's make a Suicide Squad game. Sweet, yeah. Also, let's make it a looter shooter live service game with a battle pass. This game got roasted so hard when it was revealed fully a couple months ago that it got delayed. And I swear, some of that stuff that they talked about in that video better be vetoed by the time that game comes out, because it is the worst example of a greedy live service game. Like, who was the person that decided they should talk about all the awesome guns they have in the game while showing Captain Boomerang? Like, yeah, that's what I've always wanted to play. A game where I play as Captain Boomerang and he's got an assault rifle. Are you serious? Are you serious? Tell me it's a joke! Games aren't being made anymore. They're being produced off a template and given a skin. Sometimes it's a Batman skin, sometimes it's a Suicide Squad skin, sometimes it's a Division skin. It's just kind of crazy how many games there are in the modern day where you can look at that and go, huh, I think I've played that before. Like, you can just look at these things and go like, that's not profitable, that's not gonna make money. Because the truth is, these games don't sell because there's no passion behind them. You guys know the uncanny valley, where you look at a human and you go like, yeah, that's not a human, but it's trying to be. Well, we can now do that with games and money now. Like, so many live service games are shutting down recently because people can detect when something is made only to make cold hard cash. I guarantee you that Overwatch 2 would be dead and buried right now if it didn't have great character gameplay that it got from Overwatch 1, a game that had vision and a team of passionate developers behind it. It just goes to show that effort sells. These big publishers pump out generic game after generic game, and then they take all the wrong lessons away from it when it fails. Like, no, your single player games aren't failing because people don't like single player games anymore. You're just making bad single player games. Lightning was captured in a bottle for those classic games all those years ago because they had soul, and it's that soul that inspired, excited, and delighted all those players who put up a review for it and said, yeah, it's good. That's why it's music to my ears when I hear that Ubisoft has lost 500 million in profits this last fiscal year. It shows that you can't just generate a river of money. There's no formula or template for success, and you can't decide what players like. There is no shortcut for making a good game. Every single classic game ever has been a leap of faith taken by a game company. A shot in the dark, but an informed one. They knew what they were aiming for, and they wanted to hit the mark. So yeah, I've run out of things to yell about today, but I think we've covered a lot of ground. The games industry is just full of smart people who think they know how to rake the profits in, but games industry, are you listening? Let me drop this pearl of knowledge on you for free. If you're making a game, the first step is having a great idea, not a profit prediction. Hey guys, thanks for watching my first ever video. I'm really excited to put this out. This video idea just kind of came to me just earlier when I was thinking about live service games and how much they annoyed me. And I really have always just wanted to try this YouTube thing, just talk about things that I'm interested in. And so yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I am working on 2 videos at the moment. One about possibly the worst game I've ever played. It's called John Wick Hex. And then the other is the BioShock series analysis. So what that is that's kind of like your average analysis video, but I'm just going through the whole story. I just finished getting in the footage from all 3 games, all of its DLC, even the Nokia flip phone version. So yeah, that one's going to be a time in the running, but yeah, I'm just going to keep talking about things I'm interested in, really. And if you find that interesting, if you like the way I talk, the way I dance around, the way I change my clothes every couple scenes, then stick around, subscribe, you'll see more. Anyway, see ya.